Friday, Bloomberg reporting that the DCG is being investigated by U.S. officials over internal transfers. And I'll make it clear that no one is accused of criminal conduct right now, but the pressure on the company is growing. So there were reports that Genesis could be imminently preparing to file for bankruptcy. Arcane Research was doing some analysis on what bankruptcy from Genesis and from DCG would mean for markets. What is your take on to that probe?
I would have been shocked if there wasn't a probe. With everything that's happening in crypto, all the new scrutiny that's coming out, especially what this is stemming, sounds like more from what happened back in May, June, when 3AC and a lot of other people, kind of imploded. So it's totally logical. I mean, as a crypto fan, I've been waiting for the SEC to actually get more involved in some of these problems because it actually is kind of necessary. Not that I know that what they'll do will actually be helpful, but it's important that all these investigations happen, and there clearly has been a lot of wrongdoing.
Focusing on DCG and some of its businesses for right now, let's talk about Genesis first. The company laid off 30% of its staff recently. It's shutting down its wealth management business. Just how dire does the situation look there for that company?
Really dire, and I would put that more in the DCG dire, not just Genesis and whatever HQ was. So I mean, we were actually, like, in 2021 and probably the first part of 2022, we were one of the largest counterparties that they told us with Genesis. Did a lot of trading with them, and I actually don't know why they didn't lay off more employees from the Genesis side. Like, they called us right after the FTX news, and they basically started talking about how Genesis might be bankrupt. And they asked if we wanted to keep working with them, like, doing trades for them. And we're just like, what are you talking about? You're announcing you're going into bankruptcy. Like, how would that even work? Like, you want me to, I said, sure, we do have some clients. We always do a lot of trading, buy BTC or whatever. And ask them, well, okay, well, how's this going to work? Usually we send you the money and you send us the Bitcoin. We're not sending you the money. And they're like, oh yeah, we can't send you the Bitcoin first. And I was like, this makes no sense. Like, you're in open default. Like, you've announced you're defaulting on, a massive amount of money, a couple $1 billion. Why on earth would anybody send you money? So we did ask them, like, yeah, how are things going? And the answer basically was, yeah, it's really slow. Obviously, Barry is in massive triage mode now with DCG. Like, he's, the only thing I can say, and we're just looking at this pretty much as an outsider, is everything's a delaying tactic. Like, his hope seems to be that the market comes back. And the venture portfolio he has and some of the assets he has increase in value to the point that he can solve this massive hole on the Genesis side without having to implode the whole thing, without having to fire sell Grayscale and CoinDesk and a whole bunch of other platforms. And I don't think it's going to work. You probably have, Gemini alone has like 340,000, users, which is a lot of people's life savings, but that's one. There's probably 700,000-800,000 people that are, hugely impacted by these actions, any few of which can put you into bankruptcy.
You mentioned Grayscale, so I want to ask about that. Can you give an update on the situation with GBTC and the discount it's trading at right now, and what that means for holders of that?
What it should mean, and I think it probably does mean, is that the GBTC holders are fine. It's a trust. The LPs of that trust own the trust. That's usually how it works. Now, obviously, usually how FTX should have worked is they shouldn't have loaned their assets to their sister company. Anyway, so in a normal world, those assets would be totally fine. All these DCG parent problems, which could possibly lead to like a bankruptcy and the unwinding of those trusts, would be a huge boon to the trust holders. Now, the reason that the trust is trading such a discount is because that's how it should work, and but no one knows. Are those assets really there? Coinbase kind of said, yeah, a lot of the assets are there in custody, and then Grayscale never confirmed it, and so nothing would surprise me at this point. After FTX and what we're seeing out of Genesis and just the utter misrepresentations and ineptitude. It's not that easy to lose billions of dollars either. So no one would put anything past anyone at this point.
Yeah. So let's end on that hypothetical there, simply because I think there were reports that Genesis could be imminently preparing to file for bankruptcy. Arcane Research was doing some analysis on what bankruptcy from Genesis and from DCG would mean for markets. What is your take on what DCG's potential bankruptcy or theoretical bankruptcy would mean for the market? Would we see another severe hit to prices or confidence?
So the first answer to your question is, I don't think he can just bankrupt Genesis. Like, it is completely commingled. He put out all sorts of statements. We were a trading partner. We have emails and documents from them saying, DCG is fully behind this. They've absorbed these losses. And of course, now Barry's saying, I don't know what anyone's talking about. Of course, we weren't taking those losses. But he did successfully encourage a huge number of large institutions in crypto to start trading with them again, on the basis that DCG had taken that 3AC loss and the Babel losses and the other losses, onto the DCG balance sheet. It was, put it on Twitter in press releases. So I don't see any possible way he can just bankrupt Genesis and not also bankrupt DCG. I do think there's a very high likelihood, and it won't be Barry's choice, that other creditors will force first Genesis into bankruptcy, which then put DCG into bankruptcy. And I think so. I think there's a very pretty likely chance it goes that way going forward. So what does that mean for the space? And again, it really depends on what happens with Grayscale. So if DCG goes bankrupt, but Grayscale trusts are separate and fine and done the way that legally they should be, I don't think the impact is very large. I think there'll be some recovery for the Gemini earn holders, whatever it be, 60, 70 cents in the dollar. That kind of depends on what happens to 3AC and FTX, because there'll be some recoveries from those as well. So that's bad, but it's, I think that's pretty well already priced in. Those assets have been locked for months now. So I don't think it's huge for the crypto space, but it would be one more negative storyline, one more reason for the SEC and CFTC and all the regulatory agencies to come in and investigate more and put more hamstrings on the industry. But I think that's already kind of done. Like, I think they're already doing as much as they want to do and have kind of free reign to go after people already.
Okay, before we go, we reached out to Grayscale about that interview and the questions around its Bitcoin trust. In response, the company pointed to the CEO's end-of-year letter to investors, which said in part, quote, "The assets underpinning Grayscale products, including GBTC, remain safe, secure, and unencumbered." It added that Grayscale adheres to U.S. financial rules, regulations, reporting requirements, and accounting principles like other asset managers.